Hello and welcome to the Rivals Workshop tutorial series, Intermediate Character Section, Part 3. In this video we will talk about hit effects, color mapping, and how to handle these couple visual things in a relatively simple way. So, right here I have Rosso open. Rosso is a character I made for Rivals 2 contest, and as some of you may know, he actually doesn't look like this in the character files. What he does is heavy color map, and if you go to the Rebels workshop manual, the unofficial one, in the community guides, you'll be able to find the guide I made about color mapping, which is what we'll be basically following for this video. Yeah, quick color map. But before we tackle that, let's go over hit effects. So, what are hit effects? Let me get a character. So in game, when you hit someone, you create a hit effect. The hit effect is layered above the hit player and below the attacking player. And well, these add flavor to your hits. It's important to have them for game feel. And if you want to make custom ones, like for example, this one that the sniper shot uses, it is quite simple. I'll go over the basic implementation for hit effects using this one file. There it is. This is sniper hit. So importantly, you will notice that the colors on this hit effect are mapped to the colors of the rifle, which is specifically the colors used in the eyes. So it's important you do color map your hit effects if you want them to appear properly in game. And to implement this, well, we'll just go over to init. I already have it defined, but I'll just rewrite it for readability. This is it. So snipe hit or effects underscore snipe hit equals hit effects create. This allows you to create the object itself with the data. You give it the sprite and you tell it how long it should last on screen. So this is 8 frames. I usually do ×4 for hit effects, but it depends on the animation you're displaying. For this one, ×4 is good. So actually no, not I did ×3 here. So 24. Then what we do is that we take this variable and head over to the attack we want to give it to. In this case F special. Go down to the hitbox that handles the, oh, I think it's done manually actually. Yeah, it is done manually. But basically what you do is that, you know what, I'll just give it to Jab to make an example. Edgy visual effect. So 1 is the empty, it won't spawn any effect. I'll show that in game. See? And if instead of 1 we give it the variable from before, now it does that hit effect. Let me quickly just revert all of that. Oh yeah, leaving it blank will make it do the default hit effect, which is this one, which is also hit effect gen omni. This is the macro for it. You can also put this in instead of empty to specify that you want this specific hit effect. There are macros to base game hit effects that reference like the big hit and whatnot. So this is how you implement a basic custom hit effect. If you wanna spawn one manually, like maybe on hit, so let's go to hit player. First of all, you need to check that the attack you're doing is the correct one. Here I have a switch for it, and we'll go in the jab section and do spawn hit effects. And so we want, usually hit effects spawn between the hitbox and the hit player. the midpoint between the two. So we want to do something like lerp from the hitbox X to the hit player objects.x 0.5. And for the y coordinate, the same, except we go from y to y minus character height divided by 2. And the hit effect is fx. Oh yeah, no, I can just use the one the snipe hit, the one I defined already. Snipe hit. Importantly, this function wants integers for the positions, so make sure to floor these two values. Otherwise, it will throw an error. And now it spawns that hit effect on top of the one it was already spawning thanks to the hitbox grid. Importantly, hit effects spawn manually do not get layered correctly. So you can see here when I hit ABSA, my custom hit effect is behind ABSA. What you can do to solve this, I should have it in my template, but basically you do with hit effects object if let me check the manual real quick. This is the variable for the index. If this equals other dot snipe hit, oh yeah, and also player ID equals other, and we do depth equals other dot depth plus 1. So depth is the variable that sets where something is drawn on screen, and now it's layered correctly. Let me quickly undo this. This is not the only use for hit effects. They can also be used generally to make visual things not related to hitting players. And I'll give an example right here. Yeah, it was up air. So Rosso's up air is this shot. The attack itself is not a projectile, but it's a physical hitbox. But the actual effect for it is actually drawn with a hit effect. This is because if Rosso lands, I don't want it to get cancelled. So I have something set in place that prevents the effect, the projectile from disappearing when Rosso lands. This is because the projectile is not part of Rosso's up air animation. So you can see here in the code, at the right time, it spawns the hit effect. It saved the object in a variable. It sets the depth correctly. And this is a couple of variables hit effects have that allow you to make them follow a player or an object. It will just set the X and Y positions of the effects to the player's X and Y on every frame. Another thing you can do with hit effects is create trails. So Rosso's rockets leave smoke when they fly, and the smoke is also rotated at random directions. So if you go in hitbox update, so this is the smoke. It is just spawned at the missile's position, and the draw angle, which is the variable that holds the direction it's drawn in, is set to a random variable, a random multiple of 90. So it's only rotated by multiples of 90 degrees. If this was spawned every frame, let's do one or, so this is going to be true always. What you can do with this is basically create a form of trail for the projectile. You can do this with any other like hit effect to make this form of trail. It's actually very good for low cost drawn trails like that. that don't need like influence or like aren't as important. That should be all for basic hit effect handling. Now let's move on to color mapping. So I'm going to turn off the init shader code for Rosso so that you can actually see how it works under the hood. So this is Rosso's base alt. So when you switch alt, it's all fine. The only issue is handling the base alt. So why do you want a color map? In the final colors for Rosso, you can see that some of the body parts have the same palette, like the head and the arms, but maybe in some alts we want to give them different colors, like for example here or in the Samus one. So what we do is basically make the sprites have the different colors, but then tell the game to draw the same color when you're on the base alt. It's all illustrated in the guide here. The first thing we need to do is make a proper colors.gml. Hold on. Okay, so we have the portrait open, and I'll define the 8 slots. Actually, never mind, I'll just paste the one Ross already has. There we go. So we have the slots, and the way you make your mapped alt, you go down here and increase this value by 1. This allows you to create an extra alt here. So in this case, it would be alt 32, or, well, the 33rd alt, because the maximum is 32, including the base colors. But these are the base colors, and we want some place to store the final colors, which is what the base alt will look like. An extra thing you can do is add an extra color slot here, and it doesn't need to hold any colors. Can maybe do this, and for every alt, this is the dust slot. Actually, I haven't implemented that on Rust, so I'll do it now, because one thing you notice is that the dust effects are red. This is because their dust effects by default use the base color, and when Rosso is color mapped, this is the red they're using is the red of the head and not like the red of the visor, and it kind of looks bad. So in order to fix that, we can add this extra alt, which will handle all the dust effects. I'll set this to main, and then we can just actually this is up to you. I'll copy them over so I don't need to make this code only for the base alt. There we go. I'll copy this and paste it over here. And now what we do is that we go in init, and in the bar section it should be dust color. I'll go check the documentation just to be sure. Player variables dust shade and hit shade. So dust shade equals 8, hit shade equals 8. I wonder if I should actually make it eye colors. That would probably look a lot better, maybe, at least for the base alt, than this dull gray. There we go. Yeah, that looks so much cooler. Yeah, the hit effects are proper red now. This won't affect the custom hit effects. Those are handled later. We'll see how to. So, now let's go into init shader. How do we handle the color mapping? Well, this is actually, I have it saved locally like this, but I can just use the alt system. I'll just update this. So if we are on base alt, so this is a system I have in place to get the proper alt even on CSS. It is synced because there is a problem with getting the alt here in init shader, and this is a more reliable way than altfix. I just define this variable in CSS init, and there the value is properly set. And this is, well, I don't use this. This is alt section, but for like extra alt, but I'm probably never going to implement it. So if we are on base alt, what we do is here we set this to variables, set character color slot and article slot, and here get color profile slot R, and this is 32, and the shade E because we want the relative shade, and we'll just replace these ones to our GB and copy these arguments to the other functions. And now if we reload in game, you see Rosso is properly colored. I really like the new redder dust. So what this is doing, it's basically picking up the colors that we put in here and putting them instead of the default colors. And this is a thing Rosso has for outlines. So this code here, these are the arrays that handle the character colors. These also handle the outline colors, and these 3 slots here handle the RGB for the outline. We set it default to 0, and based on the alt we're at, we set it to the value. Importantly, this is not like 0 to 55. It's actually saved as floats. And so if you want the value, you need to divide by 255. This is white. This is like max value. This is 33 out of 255. And then this is an extra clause. This is an extra clause that resets the thing if you're like burned or there are any other effects applied on you. This is what actually makes the outline appear colored visually. So this is like what it should be as, and this is what actually is shown in game. So by setting these array like this, you'll be able to have custom outlines. Oh yeah, and this color slot here, this set article color slot, is what impacts the recoloring of the hit effects. Let me go to base alt. So you can see now the custom hit effect is recolored properly, the one on F special, and that's because we set this. If you didn't set this, all of the stuff that isn't related to the character wouldn't be recolored properly. An important thing about F special is that the body is actually drawn separately in post draw here. You can see here it's drawn manually to make the rotation, and the thing is it won't get recolored unless we set the article slots. Later down the tutorials I'll show how to use this method here to get more color slots than 8. And the way you draw these sprites properly recolored, you just enable the shader, draw the sprite, disable the shader. It's important you disable the shader after you're done, otherwise the shader will bleed into other drawing. For example, if I go to post draw and do shader start here, you'll see that a couple things will likely break. Well, they didn't in this case. Just don't leave this on like that, because it can mess up with drawing other things. It's like leaving alpha 0 like this, and a bunch of things would break. Yep. You can see a lot of things aren't drawing anymore, like the overhead HUD of the CPU or the HUD down there. This is not intended behavior, and you should never leave this to 0. You should always reset it to 1 once you're drawn using drawset alpha. A cool thing you can do is basically use this dynamically to recolor sprites as you go. So for example, if I wanna not have the body recolor like that, I can like define a variable special recolor 0, and I'll do this, and in init shader, if this is set to 1, we'll set the article slot uh, 3 to blue, so 0, 0 to 55, and actually half opacity. Otherwise, set it to nothing because it's already being set by this one. So what we do here in post draw, maybe I wanna change how the body is drawn. So let's go here. Before shader starts, we enable our variable, then call init shader, then call shader start, and then we need to reset. So special recolor 0, and then init shader. This is basically making the body be drawn in that way only for this draw, and to show that I'll copy over this like this, and I'll offset it by 200 pixels vertically, or units, not pixels. So you can see now that the... Oh yeah, I didn't reset the alpha. Hold on. Also 200 is too much. Let's do 100. So here in the article slot, set this to 1. So you can see the body is drawn normally above, and below it has the shoulders be blue and semi-transparent, like we did. If I set this to 1, it should recolor the eyes instead. Yeah, eyes and wings. So for other effects, what matters is the last one you set. So in this case, the hit effect here is still red, even though the laser that shot is blue, because the laser that shot is part of the body animation. I'll take this out. So yeah, this is how you handle this kind of like dynamic recoloring. Well, this should be all for this tutorial. I'll see you on the next one where we'll tackle articles and how they work.